welcome to Holy Cross Business News. I am Michael. There are worrying signs today that the global economy is going to crash. First, we head over to the White House, where President George Bush will shortly address the crisis at hand.
Good evening. This is an extraordinary period for America's economy. Over the past few weeks, many Americans have felt anxiety about their finances and their future. I understand their worry and their frustration. We've seen triple-digit swings in the stock market. Major financial institutions have teetered on the edge of collapse, and some have failed. As uncertainty has grown, many banks have restricted lending. Credit markets have frozen, and families and businesses have found it harder to borrow money. We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis.
As you can see, the situation is very worrying. We now have a special report on how the global financial crisis started.
So how did the GFC start? Well, it all started in the United States. The financial crisis all started due to a problem called subprime home lending. Usually when a home buyer wants to buy a home, they go to their mortgage broker. The mortgage broker contacts a mortgage lender, who gives the home buyer their mortgage. One day investment banks rang the mortgage lender, asking to buy mortgages off them. The mortgage lenders sold them to the investment banks for a large profit. The investment bankers then sell these mortgages to investors for an even larger profit. The investors are so impressed with the returns they are making that they want more mortgages. The investment bankers contact the mortgage lender, who contacts the mortgage brokers looking for more mortgages to buy. The broker cannot find anyone who qualifies for a mortgage. The mortgage brokers then start lending to a group of home buyers called subprime mortgages. These are mortgages that the brokers do not think the home buyer will be able to pay back. The whole process goes on fine until home buyers become unable to pay back their mortgages. The amount of houses up for sale on the market rises, the market cools down and house prices plummet. This means investors are no longer making money to pay back the investment banks. Investment banks can no longer repay the massive loans they took out. Mortgage lenders are no longer making profit, and mortgage brokers lose their jobs. Many banks have to close, as they cannot repay their debts. Investors and consumers become scared, which causes the economy globally to freeze.
We now cross to Benny, who will give us an insight on what the global financial crisis means for consumers and businesses.
Thank you, Michael. I have with me consumer Helen and medium business owner David. Helen, could you please tell us about your current financial situation and how the GFC has hit you?
After being made redundant, I can barely pay for my bills. I can no longer afford the luxuries that I was once used to. Without job security, I have to budget heavily in order to pay for necessities.
Have any businesses shown interest in hiring you?
No one will hire me. I've been looking for weeks and most businesses say they cannot afford to take me on.
How is your current housing situation?
As no one is buying homes anymore, the price of rent has risen dramatically. I can no longer afford the high rent. I might be living on the streets soon.
How has your superannuation been hit?
My superannuation has decreased heavily. I think I may have to work past the retirement age just to get enough to live. I just don't know if I can go on like this any longer.
David, how has the GFC affected your business?
My business has had to severely cut back on our expenditure. Consumers aren't buying our products anymore, so we are no longer making any money.
What is the current employment situation at your business?
I have had to cut down on the number of staff that work for me. As we are not selling enough produce, I can no longer afford to keep them.
What have you had to cut back on?
As we were a medium-sized business with 3 locations, I had to cut the size of my business down to only 1 location. We were lucky, as 30,000 small businesses with only 1 location disappeared completely. With less locations, we have also had to cut back on our produce, limiting our income.
Thank you. Back to Michael.
Thank you, Benny. Let's cross to James to take a look at how the economy is going.
Thank you, Michael. Stocks around the world have been hit hard. After the Lehman Brothers collapse earlier this week, many other banks are following suit. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Kevin Rudd and Treasurer Wayne Swan released their budget in response to the global financial crisis. Stimulus packages were introduced to increase spending. 4 major banks were also given an insurance policy to protect against collapse. The government hopes that by 2011 our economy will be looking a bit more like this.
Thank you, James. It has certainly been a tough few months for the world's economy. Tune in tomorrow for another edition of Holy Cross Business News.